Welcome to The Rational Egoist. I'm your host, Michael Leibowitz. It's no secret that I spent a considerable amount of time in prison, and it's also no secret that I like to discuss criminal justice issues. What I haven't done yet is have somebody on the show who could discuss things from a victim's perspective. Well, our guest is here today to do just that. Jill Harrison, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much. So to begin with, I would like you to just tell us your daughter's name and a little bit about her.
Her name is Sierra, and oh gosh, so many facets. I don't know why it's a loaded question every time. She was very vivacious, could have been in acting or singing, very outgoing people person. When she was little, she was very into fashion. She would come out and runway walk and have some sort of fashion she had concocted in her room. And she was actually really good. It didn't look like a 3 or 4-year-old. It looked like, a runway walk and a runway outfit. So I often thought she would go into fashion, but she didn't. She was super fun. She had a very infectious laugh. A lot of people that knew her, they always say, I miss her laugh. So yeah. She was my oldest. She was my child that gave me the most run for my money, for sure. Yeah, she was a lot of fun. And yeah, she was extremely intelligent too. She was gifted on paper. So for having a first child that had a high IQ, that was a little confusing for me as a parent. I didn't have Facebook groups back then to get on and find other moms that were dealing with that, and to have access to information of what that meant and how to give her the best, tools and assets and boundaries and options. I was pretty much just flying blind. So it's a lot different process now. There's a big support system out there through social media.
Sure. So what happened to her and how old was she when it happened?
Okay, so in 2019, it was April. I got a call about 11:30 at night from a detective, and he was asking me to confirm some information about her. And I thought she had been arrested. She'd never really been arrested. So I was like, is she there? Can I talk to her? And he kept stalling. And I said, can you just let me talk to her? Because I wanted to find out, like, what are you doing? Like, what happened? So I kind of know what to say, And he's like, okay, well, I just need to ask you this first. And he was very slow and very methodical and easygoing with it. So nothing to alert me that it was the call you see on the first 48,
Yeah.
or when they go to the door and the mom's screaming in the background. No clue that that's the call I was getting. And he asked me a question and I answered it. And I was like, can I please just talk to her real quick? And then he's like, okay. And then he had one more question. I was like, this is very weird. He's hesitating in between. And then I thought, oh, no. I said, you're not calling to give me bad news, are you? Because I'm picturing her sitting there, like right next to him, being booked for something. And I'm trying to talk to her. And he hesitated, and my stomach hit my feet. And I thought, I'm about to get that. This is that call. And he said, unfortunately, Miss Harrison, I am. And I was like, no, 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 no. This can't, no, this is not happening. This is not happening. This cannot be my life. And he said, I have Sierra. She is at the Paris County morgue. It's being investigated as a homicide. I said, somebody killed her? Do you have them? Do you know what happened? He said, I can't tell you anything. All I can tell you is it's being investigated as a homicide and she's at the morgue. And I said, can you tell me what her cause of death was? Well, first of all, I said, hold on a minute. And I went like about 10 times because I started to just scream and fall on the floor. And I thought, you can't lose your stuff because you're going to have to get to the bottom of this and you're going to have to make sure this person pays. So hold your stuff together. And So I sucked in a bunch of times, pulled it down really hard, and I said, these are my questions. My brain is, a whirlwind of questions. And a detective personality is very methodical, factual, no emotion. So he said, all I can tell you is she's at the morgue. I can't tell you anything else. There's an ongoing investigation. And I was like, you can't just call and tell me she's in the morgue and not give me any answers. Like, that is the most horrific, terrible, cruel torture to do to a parent. He said, I can't tell you anything. And he refused. So I hung up and I called her ex-boyfriend, which is my granddaughter's dad. And I said, is the baby in the room? And he said, yeah. I said, get her out of the room. I got to talk to you. And he said, okay. I sent her out with my cousin. I said, they killed her. They effing killed her. Because I knew there was a guy that was stalking her and had done a home invasion and held her hostage with her roommate. And I thought it was him. And I said, they effing got her. And he goes, I knew it. She's been in the news all day. And I was like, what are you talking about? He said, there was a 25-year-old woman's body found in Moreno Valley. And it's Sierra. And I was like, this cannot be my life right now. This cannot be my life. Like, I didn't want to wake up from a dream. I was like, this is insanity. This cannot be my life. Why? How? What? Who? Everything's going through your mind. I likened in the aftermath of this call that going through the aftermath of a homicide is like being put through a meat grinder. Your whole body, your emotions, your mind, every cell, every fiber of your being down to your most smallest DNA, going through a meat grinder over and over and over and over. And you have to live with it. And you have to learn to function with it. And so when the criminal goes to prison, they think they're feeling some sort of way. They have no idea what they put the family members through. None. And so sometimes I say, it's not fair they get 3 hots and a cot because a meat grinder would be too good. That's what I'm referring to. Because that's what we have to go through. And we didn't make the choice. We didn't do the deed. We didn't commit the crime. So why are we the ones that have to suffer?
Sure.
And I told Kanan, the man that killed her, I've been in touch with him and I've spoken to him. I had so many questions and he was the only one with the answers.
Okay, hold on one second. So you mentioned prison. So this guy, Kanan, you said he went to prison. What was his sentence?
He was sentenced 50 years to life. They were going to give him 75. They said in California, we do 75 to life, but we need him to do another case in Las Vegas that was against his ex-wife. So we're going to give him 50 and he's agreed to cooperate on that.
Okay.
Are you okay with that? And I said, yeah, because I figure he'll get 10 or 20 on that. He got 50 on this. It's going to ham him up till he's dead. It's not going to matter.
Sure.
He didn't end up getting that much. I think he got like 7 years. And I'm not sure if it runs concurrent or not. But the aftermath of that, because, I love criminal shows. I love investigations. I have a research brain.
Yeah.
I dove straight into that as a means of helping me get through the next year.
And then you
pretty much 4 years.
And you actually reached out to him.
Yeah.
Right.
Because he was the only one with the answers. Every time I would get a question, I would type it up and I would call I was quite the pain in the butt to the detective. He would call me and say, Miss Harrison, why am I getting reports that you're out there doing an investigation? I said, just call me John Walsh. He messed with the wrong one, son. Believe me, I am going after him just as hard as you. He said, I need you to sit down and stay out of this and quit shaking bushes and let me do my job. I'm trying to build an effectual case. And that was a hard part for me that I don't think a lot of parents or family members realize when they go through a crime. This is not just the death of your child. It's a death of your child. And I would get so mad. People would be like, oh, rest in peace. I'm sorry you lost your child. It's terrible when a child dies before a parent. And I would just want to scream at them. This isn't just a death of my child. Hello? This is like multiple deaths. It's a death of my child. It's a homicide. and it's an investigation, and it's a prosecution phase. So it's like, it just goes on and on and on. And I don't think people realize when you have a homicide, that's what's involved. And I know any parent that's been through this would be saying, yep, that's exactly right. You know, people are like, oh, I lost a child to this, I lost a child to that. I'm like, when your child dies and you get to go to the morgue and kiss them and say goodbye and identify the body, I wish I got that. I didn't even get that. I got pieces. And I was so angry with him because he didn't just take her life, he destroyed her body. And my daughter was one of the most beautiful people in a lot of rooms. Not that being beautiful is, you know, what's the word my daughter uses? That's not a flex. My little daughter. It's not a flex to be beautiful, because if God gave you good genes, that's not something that you did. Mm-hmm. So, you know, do something that you have to actually work at to get credit for. But she was really beautiful. She was extremely talented, and she was incredibly smart. But she was kind of my failure to launch also, which it took me years of studying the gifted mind, and then, you know, being twice exceptional, other factors. That's why I say I wish I'd had the social media support that they have now. I could have done a lot of things different, but I'm not blaming my child. I'm just saying, for people out there dealing with kids like this, I want to speak on that.
So
Sorry,
how long was it? How long was it before you reached out to the killer? From the time you find out, how long before you reached out to him?
Okay, so I found out around April 23rd. I think she died or was killed on the 11th. Kanan thinks it was the 9th because that was the last activity on her phone. But the detective and the people that have her stuff will not release it to me in case they need it in the future for the case. Now, there are 2 people that helped him dispose of her body, and they're still out walking around. They have tried to go after that situation, but it has not been effective yet. Okay. So the public pretty much don't know that. It came out in the Los Angeles Times, but that's the first time any journalist was willing to put it out there. Okay. But okay, so sorry, what was the question?
It's okay.
My brain is so full of everything I want to say.
I know it's a tough topic, and no one will blame you for being a little scattered. You know, it's okay. Yeah. So how long was it before you reached out to him?
Okay, so April is when I got the call. I immediately started pursuing who it was. Within 7 to 10 days, I think I knew who it was. Everything I was getting, I was telling the detective. Of course, I found out later he already knew. They had arrested Kanan on Easter Sunday, on Monday after Easter. I didn't find out till Wednesday. So he was arrested on Monday. Tuesday, the construction worker found her, and Wednesday, I got the call. So then in December, they said, we're going to, I forget the title for the first court date, but they said, I'm in Utah. I live on a minimal budget. I don't have money to fly. And I'm on the groups. They're telling me this can go on for 5 years. You're going to have to go back and forth for 5 years. I'm like, oh, this is just a nightmare that won't end. And they said, the first court date's not a big deal. We're just going to go over some stuff and then set the date for later to come back. And then when we show the evidence, that's probably when you want to come so you can see what we have for the case. Because I was so worried. I don't want this person getting off. So they go to the first court date, and the DA, so I'm texting my daughter's best friend and her ex-boyfriend and most recent fiance. So the 2 guys and the girl are in there. So I'm texting, they're like, we can't text, court's about to start. Then I get a text from her friend, and then the DA calls me and says, we have the defendant in the courtroom, and he's wanting to confess. And I said, oh my goodness, that is my prayers answered. I've been putting him on all kind of prayer lists that he wouldn't be able to get away from the guilt, and he would go in there and confess. I can't believe it worked. It really worked. This is awesome. And they said, but he wants to be sentenced today. So I was like, oh. So then I had been asking the detective the whole time, please let me write him. Let me go see him. I think he was in Banning. I wanted to go see him. Now that he's not on drugs, he'll probably listen. I can cry, I can plead, I can beg, and I'll be able to get through to the sane side of his personality and maybe talk him into it. You know, you got to do this. God wants you to do this type deal. So as soon as court was over, I was allowed to write him a letter. I wasn't allowed the whole 8 months. So I busted out a letter, sent it off. The following Friday, the phone rings. And it says, I'm getting a call from the prison, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm talking to the killer, that's how we saw him at that point. And
Sure.
he said, hello, this is Keenan Chambers. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I'm doing this. Like, nobody does this. How am I doing this? But I have so many questions. And I said, I know who you are, first of all. I said, I've watched all of your videos. In fact, I've transcribed every single one of your videos. Meth-induced rants, preaching, rap songs, just talking about nothing. I transcribed every single one of them, looking for clues, just poring over them. And I said, your voice is ingrained in my brain. So yeah. And he's like, I know you have some questions for me, and I would like to try to answer them to give you any closure or any peace that I can, because Sierra didn't deserve this. And I'm like, okay, I appreciate that. So then we began what turned into a year and a half of phone calls. Are you being attacked?
I was, yes.
Incoming invasion.
Yeah.
So that went on for about a year and a half, because prison phone calls are fairly short and they have a nice recording that interrupts every few minutes. So it took a long time for me to get my answers. I think I had a list of like 3 pages, single spaced, on 12-point font. It was a lot. But I got my answers to everything. And I would say to parents that are going through this, it might turn your stomach to actually speak to the person, but it was, I don't know if it was just me, because that's how I process, but having the answers, having the understanding, having the insight helped so much.
Now,
And the first year of not having answers made it worse. It was torture to get through.
and are you still in touch with him today?
I'm not right now. uh, I had asked him to do something that had to do with writing some things, and he did not come through on those. And so I was like, okay, I'm good. There was other factors that have been going on for about the last year. Things I was considering, like, I don't want to say being genuine. When you're dealing with someone with the track record that he has, you have to question, is this person playing me? Are they a narcissist? Are they a
Yes.
psychopath? Are they just thinking this is funny to profile me and play word salad and mentally manipulate me? Or are they truly being genuine about desperation to get to the bottom of who they are? And I was in no way, shape, or form trying to contribute to his life to save him. Some of the articles that come out, people can kind of get that idea. I'm not trying to save anybody. I'm not trying to change anybody. But anybody that's ready, willing, and wants to change, and they're looking for answers, if I can share any of the things that it took me years to figure out, and lots of bad choices and lots of suffering, I will hand that over. And that's why I'm doing the books right now, because you can't be all things to all people. But when somebody is desperate for change, or desperate for answers, or desperate for hope and help, I know that I was that way a lot of years. And I would ask everybody, therapists, psychologists, pastors, domestic violence counseling, mental health, what's going on? Why do I keep doing these things? What's causing me to keep making these bad choices? Why do I keep being in these bad relationships? Why am I suffering? Why am I getting a broken heart? Why am I going through all this? Well, we're just not really sure. Really? Because you guys are the professionals.
Yeah.
So now that I have dug and dug and dug and researched and written for years, I'm just putting these into books now. So whoever wants to read them, and whoever wants answers like I did, then that's there for them.
Okay, so it sounds like you've actually yourself had a history of some emotional trouble. What was it like emotionally to be in communication with the man who took your daughter from you, who killed your daughter? How did that impact you?
Yeah, okay. As far as to clarify, emotional trouble, codependency, and ADHD put me through the ringer in my relationships. I tended to put myself in really bad domestic violence situations. And so, yeah. Sorry, repeat the question.
So you're somebody with a history of, like you just said, codependence, domestic violence. So you've got emotional baggage, for lack of a
Right,
better word. And now you're in direct communication with the man who killed your daughter. How
right,
is that impacting you emotionally as you're going through this? I mean, I understand you're looking for answers, but
right.
at the same time, every time you're on the phone with him, you've got to be aware of who it is, to whom you're speaking. So
Yeah.
how did that affect you?
Um, Sometimes it was really hard. I think, I don't know, I every time I would get on the phone, I would think, okay, to get these answers, I have to put on a face. And I have to act like everything's pretty much fine and I'm cool with this. Because if I act upset, distraught, or angry, he could get freaked out or stressed out or feel really terrible and hang up. And if he hangs up, I can't reach him. So
Sure.
every time I would get on the phone with my questions, I would think, okay, put your game face on. We're just going to chat about this because I want details and I need him to give them to me. So I got to keep the emotion out of this. So that's really how I would address the phone calls for a long time. It's just, it's fine. Go ahead and tell me about the day that you killed her. I need to know. And and that day, I think that was the first phone call. I got information from the morgue, but because we never went to trial, I never saw discovery. I never saw any of the evidence they had. So I essentially knew nothing. Now, the morgue told me that she was shot in the head, and then that's what she died from, I think. And there was also another shot in the throat. So that took days for me to process. But by the time I talked to him, I had already processed a ton, right? And I wanted my answers more than I wanted anything else. So I just suck it up, put on my game face, get on the phone, and discuss it. But I had already been walking this out for 8 months the day that we talked. And I did not know that this was coming. And he said, we were at a park. We'd been arguing. I'd been up for days on drugs. I don't even know what day it was. I think it was around 10 at night. We were by a park in Riverside, and I was about 10 feet from the car. And she was in the passenger seat of the car up against the curb by the park. And my door was open on the driver's side, and we were arguing. And he said, I turned around, she pissed me off, and I fired. And I hit her in the stomach. That was the first time I ever heard that. And I was like, oh my gosh. I said, you hit her in the stomach? He said, yeah, I shot her twice in the stomach. And he said, this part still gives me nightmares. I wake up having nightmares. I cry. This tortures me. He said, she looked at me and because I was like, what was her last words? Was she dead immediately when you shot her in the head? I had no idea he shot her in the stomach first. And he said, she looked at me and she said, Kanan, God will forgive you. Drive me to the hospital. And Kanan was raised in church. And when he was sober, he was a preacher. But when he would get on drugs, he was a crip, he was a gangbanger, and he was a drug addict. So there was two sides to him. And so I know she was thinking, I've got to appeal to the God factor because I'm going to die. And he said, I panicked. I didn't want to go to prison. I should have just drove her there and dropped her off, but I was scared. And I wasn't ready for this. And he said, and so I fired 2 more times. And my stomach hit the floor and I almost threw up and I almost lost my stuff. And I said, I don't know that I can do this. 8 months, rah, rah, rah. I'm doing so good. I'm getting answers. I'm forgiving him. I'm processing. It just came and just blew me, not side blinded me, knocked all the wind out of me. And I thought, I want to kill him again. I have to start all over with this whole process. I don't know how I'm going to do this. That's too much. I said, Kanan, you didn't just impulsively shoot my child. You executed her on purpose. with a choice. I don't know how to deal with that. So then I had to hold it together and not start screaming at him and falling apart, because I wanted to know how the heck she got out to the desert where they dropped her off. So I had to suck it down, put my game face back up, say, okay, and then what happened? Meanwhile, inside, my gut is just screaming. He said, I was in hysteria. I was completely losing it. I couldn't even function. I was like, what have you done? So I drove to my friend's house. They came out and helped me wipe the car down. They gave me a change of clothes. I was just a blubbering fool. I couldn't even function. So one of them got in the car with Sierra, and I said, with 4 bullet holes in her body, blood going everywhere. He said, yes. I'm like, how does a person get in a car with a person like that? I don't understand what goes through someone's mind that they could do that. I'm working in my garage. You show up. There's a body riddled with bullets, dead in the front seat. Let me get in and go ahead and ride with that body for 15 minutes out to the desert to help you out, homie. What? Like, how do you even get to that point?
So this guy's telling you this. I can only imagine the mixture of emotions you're feeling. I mean, you must be feeling anger, sadness, confusion.
Oh, I wanted to kill him all over again. I lost everything I had worked on, and meat grinder is too good. That's why I refer to the meat grinder. A meat grinder is too good. Like, I would lay in bed at night and think, what's the worst way I could deal with him? This is before I processed the forgiveness and was moving forward and trying to do all that. What would I do if it wasn't illegal and I could really make him pay? Bucket of acid and razor blades comes to mind. And I told him that. I said, I would lay in bed and have visions of grandeur, and it involved buckets of acid and razor blades. And you and me for 12 hours in the desert, and I was going to show you. You picked the wrong child and you messed with the wrong mom. There's a meme that goes around that says, moms do better research than the FBI. Yeah, there's a reason that's out there. Yeah. When you kill someone, you don't just kill that person. You need to consider who their family is and what their family will do, But I do want to remember to go back and talk about the forgiveness factor, because
I was just
that and forgot to put that
I
in
was
there.
just gonna ask you that. So, do you feel? First of all, have you forgiven him?
Yes.
Okay.
Completely.
So first of all, I want to know why you've forgiven him, and secondly, like, how hard was that to do?
Okay. So in the beginning, the first week, I went right into detective mode. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to find who it is, and I'm going to make sure they pay. And if the courts don't make them pay, then somebody's going to make them pay. And I want to know every detail of what he did, so I know how much to come with. That was my attitude. And I don't have a criminal history, right? So it's not like I'm some Dom Mega and I got a whole record of me going and showing people what time it is. But this is the one that broke the camel's back, right? This happens to you, it will make you decide life in prison might be just fine because I'm going to show them. It takes you mentally to that place where you think, I might cross the line here. So my son was 22 at the time, and he was not taking it well. And I told him, I said, I'm going to figure out who this is. I'm very good at this. I need you to get out of the way so I can focus on that. Because he kept wanting to drive to California to find out. And I knew he's going to drive 100 miles an hour because he's upset and he's going to end up getting in a car accident. And I might lose him too. So I said, you can't go anywhere. I need you to stay here. And I need you to stop trying to leave so I can focus on this. I will figure it out and I will get all the answers. He's like, okay. So then I was just staying in the house. I was researching night and day. I was fielding 400 messages a day on Facebook. I was getting text messages, phone calls, everything. People were hitting me up in Messenger. I got that night, I went on the Moreno Valley, because that's where she was found, the Moreno Valley, California buy-sell trade group. And they were talking about it. There was a body found in Moreno Valley, and it's called Murder Valley. That's where a lot of people from the Riverside, San Bernardino area drop bodies, apparently. So they call it Murder Valley. So I got on all the Moreno Valley and Riverside buy-sell trade groups I could, and I started posting. My daughter's the one that was in the news today. If anybody knows anything, hit me up. And so after about a week, I was like, this is going to kill me and my son. I'm not sleeping, I'm not eating, and I want revenge and I want answers. And when we get the answers, I'm scared of what this could turn me into. And I still have an 7-year-old to take care of. And I started realizing this anger and this bitterness is going to take me and my son out for sure. And then it's going to leave my 7-year-old with no mother. So I was like I was so close to just breaking that last little string that was keeping me from doing something illegal. And I thought, I can't let this change who I am. I can't let this destroy me and my son. We're going to end up in prison or we're going to end up dead if we continue down this road. And then years ago, I read a book called None of These Diseases. It's a really good book. And he talks a lot about anger and unforgiveness and bitterness and things like that, and how they're actually directly tied to physical ailments, right? Emotional and mental things, like people that have a lot of anger end up with heart problems, valve issues, you know what I mean? Heart attacks. So it's directly correlated. So I kept thinking back to that book, and I'm like, I can't live in this anger. This is going to be very damaging to my body. Not like I'm concerned about health right now, but I don't need to have a heart attack and die, and then my child doesn't have a mother. I don't want cancer because of the bitterness and the unforgiveness. And I knew that unforgiveness is directly tied to cancer. So I would be washing dishes at the sink thinking, man, if I could just take him out to the desert, I would want to do these things and just be letting my mind run wild. And then I would hear, is that what you want to do? And I would think, yeah, that's what I pretty much want to do. I might want to add some more things to the repertoire. And it would say, are you sure that's what you want to do? Yep. Now, I grew up in a Christian home, and I never really hear the voice of God, right? Sometimes when you go to do something, you get like a premonition or a light bulb that goes off, and you're like, oh, I feel like I shouldn't go that way. I should go this way. And then something happens. You're like, oh, whatever that was saved my life, because I wasn't going down that road or that sidewalk or whatever. I left that person's house just in time. So it's kind of like that. So I believe that it was God, but whatever people want to translate that into, but I clearly knowingly heard it, felt it. Is that what you want to do? Yep, that's what I want to do. Are you sure that's what you want to do? Then a few days later, washing dishes, cleaning the house. Now I would do this and I would do that. And then I would do this. Is that really the kind of person you want to be? Yep, I don't care. I don't care anymore. My child is gone, and she's not just gone, she was destroyed. I think anybody would understand me feeling this way. Okay, you sure that's what you want to do? I want you to forgive. It's like, I don't want to forgive. Please don't ask me to forgive. No, I want you to forgive. So I kept hearing, I want you to forgive. I want you to forgive. So in 2 months, I was already at a place where I considered it, I've forgiven him. Okay, I forgive him. He's not worth me being bitter and angry and getting cancer and dying and losing my little baby. He's not worth my bitter and anger causing me to be revengeful, and then I go commit a felony and now I'm in prison for the rest of my life. I used to always say this. I don't like to go get in fights with people. Like people like, oh, let's fight woo, 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 when you're younger. I'd be like, sorry, I got to go home, because I'm not going to go sit up and have 3 hots in a cot. I'm going to lay up in my own house with my feet on my own couch, in my own underwear, and eating my own snacks. You're not worth that lost to me. So that's always been my mentality. I don't get sucked in by people that woof things at me. Oh, you want a woof? Okay, have a good time with that. I'll see you later. Bye. Oh, well, you chicken? No, I'm smart. I'm going to go home and eat my own snacks. Good luck to you. That's just always been my mentality. And so with this, it was the same thing. He isn't worth what it's going to cost me to continue on this path. Does that make sense?
Sure does. It's forgiveness out of self-preservation.
Right. And so people are like, oh, that's so touching. It's so wonderful. You're such a hero. Cool, thanks. I'm not really trying to be a hero. I'm trying to live. I'm trying to survive. And I know that that stuff is putrid to my system. it's destruction to my soul, it's destruction to my mind, and it's destruction to my body, which will stop me from being able to do the things that matter to me, which is raising my babies. So he's not worth that. So if I have to just say it with my mouth and not feel it, that's what I'm going to do. And so I began to say, I would be washing dishes and thinking, and I would do this and that. And it would say, is that what you want to do? And I would go, oh yeah, I forgot. I forgive Keenan Chambers. And at first I had to say it through gritted teeth. And I told my son, you need to start saying you forgive him. He goes, Mom, I got to be honest. That's not what I want to do to him. And I said, I fully understand, son. Believe me. But you have to start to say it with your mouth for it to begin to become a thought, a feeling, and an action. So say it. I don't care if you feel it. I want you to say it every day. And anytime you think evil thoughts towards him about what you'd like to do, I want you to say it. I forgive Keenan Chambers. So within 2 months, I was like, hey, I forgive him. I could sit down and have lunch with him and say, tell me about the day that you killed my child. Tell me. I forgive you, bro. But then I continued to hear that voice all the way up until the court date. I want you to forgive more. And I'm like, bro, how much do you want me to forgive? I already forgave. Like, I could have lunch with the dude. Like, what do you want? I want you to forgive more. And I'm like, I don't think there is anymore. Like, I feel pretty good that I forgave. I feel like that's a pretty thorough job I did. Most people don't do this. So, like, why do you keep asking me this? But then when he went into the courtroom and he confessed, I was like, I released it so much that I feel like, in a sense, I released it to God so much, he was able to come in and do some things in my situation. And a lot of people are like, oh, I could never forgive. That's because you don't understand the cost. They already cost you one time. Why are you going to let them cost you more? If what they did was so horrible, stop it right there. Your feelings of revenge, your need for revenge is putrefying your body and it will kill you. It will literally kill you. So you have to separate that. I'm not saying what he did was okay. I'm not saying, oh, he's a misunderstood little boy. His inner child was shattered. He didn't know better. He didn't mean to. He really meant to be a good boy. He was called to be a preacher. He just got on drugs. No, he has a whole life story of abuse towards women, severe abuse towards other people, a lot of stuff. And it all culminated into taking my child's life. But that was the catalyst for him that he went, holy crap, I have gone way too freaking far. And then the Lord kept dealing with him. He said, I hit my face when I got in that cell. And I was like, I got to get to the bottom of some things. And then after we talked, he wrote me and he said, you know, I've actually been struggling with suicidal thoughts. And I thought, oh, for Pete's sake, you can't kill yourself. I didn't get my questions answered yet. That wasn't literally like my first thought. It wasn't, oh, you poor thing, let me save you. You know, please don't do that. You can be a good guy one day. It was, holy crap, he's going to die and I'm not going to get my answers. Yeah. So I wrote him this big letter and I was like, I need you to get it together. You get on your face before God, you read any books, you pour your heart out, you repent to whatever you need to, you get deliverance, you do whatever you can figure out to get to the bottom of what caused this to happen in your life. And then you turn your life around. And I said, I'm not asking, I'm demanding. You turn your life around and you become the best version of you that you could be. You be the person that God intended when he made you and when he gave you all that purpose and all that talent and all those gifts. And you develop all that. God might have intended for you to be a world leader and you got on a wrong trajectory and followed it. And here you are in San Quentin in a bathroom-sized cell. But you change who you are. You go through that metamorphosis and then you go be a light in other people's lives. And you turn other people's lives around. And each one that you turn is going to be a seed planted. Sierra's life is a seed planted that will grow a mighty tree that bears much fruit. Each one teach one. Be a light in the world. Change. Go through a metamorphosis. Do whatever you have to do. So, because that's how you're going to turn this thing around for me. So don't you dare commit suicide. You stop feeling sorry for yourself. You get up and put your big boy pants on. And I'm demanding of you that this is what you focus on.
So forgiveness was an act of self-interest for you, really. It was to benefit you, and that's fine with me. I
It
think
was to
that's
benefit
wonderful.
me and my children. Yes.
Yes. So, but you've also now, and you
To
just
save
talked
our
about,
lives. Yes.
and you've talked about him changing and a metamorphosis. So you've also become interested in prison reform, and you want to
Yes.
see prisons do a better job of rehabilitating inmates. And, and a lot of people, when they
Yes.
hear that, and I know because I've been through it, think that what we're talking about is a country club for prisoners. But
Yeah.
what is your interest? Why do you want to see prisons do a better job of reforming offenders?
Because locking them away from society and giving them 3 hots and a cot doesn't change anything. Broken people, hurting people hurt people, right? When kids are raised in environments that are damaging, they grow up and they become damaging people, right? Mental health is a major issue in this day and age. Mental health and illnesses are having a major effect on our society right now. Without change, nothing changes. First of all, everybody, politicians come and they say, we want to do this and we want to do that and we want to do this and we want to do that. And most of it is a bunch of surface crap to get votes.
Sure it is.
I'm actually not worried about votes because I'm not a politician. I'm not running for any position of politics. I want to save families from becoming repeat victims. I want to stop there being more victims. Now, Governor Newsom of California, because I forget you guys are not there, you're across the country. He did a press conference a few months ago and announced that San Quentin, which is in the San Francisco area in the northern part of California, that's going to be the flagship program based on a model out of Norway, and you said Germany.
No, no, no. I don't know if his is based on Germany.
Oh, okay, but there is another one in
in
Germany.
Connecticut. Yeah, we have a program that's supposed to be based
so
on.
he is stating that it's based on the model in Norway, and they've been there and they took a tour, and it's a great program. And the inmates basically have little bedrooms that look kind of like a Hyatt Place hotel, if you want to get a visual. And then they have pods where about 12 of the incarcerated residents live, and they're able to play board games and cook together. And the concept is, if they don't feel like a criminal and they feel like a normal functioning person, the guards are hanging out with them, they're playing games together and fellowshipping, they treat them like humans, not animals, that they have a really low rate of them reoffending when they get out. But I mean, we're talking about San Quentin, right? What is it, the oldest, or it used to harbor like the biggest death row or something? It's notorious for things, but I can't remember what they are right now. But they're dispersing death row and putting them back into the general population. I believe that Charles Manson was there, the Menendez brothers, and I think Scott Peterson, a lot of famous in the news cases. I think they're all, the Menendez brothers are still there. But they're going to disperse death row, put them back into the general population. So I'm sure those guys are excited to have death row inmates going to be joining them. Some of them were young, 17 and a half. So they got tried as an adult, and then they got, death sentence, life in prison, whatever. And so when you're a hot-headed kid that's drunk versus a 40-year-old man with 30 years of study under your belt, you can be a completely different person, which is kind of your situation, right?
Sure, but there's a tension that I'm sensing here. And I think that you're probably on the same page as me. Tell me if I'm wrong, but the purpose of prisons, the 4 goals are incapacitation, so you get a dangerous person off the street; punishment, so that the person, the retribution that they deserve; deterrence of both their own future criminal behavior and to deter other people; and then rehabilitation. And I think that all 4 are laudable goals. But I'm getting the sense from you that the idea that you want people to get rehabilitated for the sake of society, for the sake of preventing victims, but that doesn't mean turning prison into a country club. And it seems like that kind of chafes on you a little bit. If I'm wrong, tell me. I'm just saying that's just the
No,
sense
yeah.
I'm getting.
Oh, well, at first what chafes on me is if somebody goes to prison for doing a horrific violent crime and they get treated nicely while they're there and they have a nice Hyatt Place hotel suite, who actually pays for the brutal homicide? Because why should I have to know my daughter was in pieces in the desert laying out there
Sure.
by herself for 11 days, but he gets a hotel suite and guards that love him and care about him? I struggled with this in talking to him the first year. He said, I wake up sometimes and I just cry over my cereal. So then I would go, oh, well, okay, here's a few suggestions of how you can process today or what you can think about. And then I would hang up and think, is he really crying because he feels so horrible what he did? Or is he crying because he's in prison? And a lot of people would say, well, they're crying because they're in prison. Maybe he really was crying because he feels bad, because he said, Sierra didn't deserve this.
Sure.
This was me being too much. This is me going too far. I'm not pro inmate. And I think the news media, when they tell the story, they like to make it like I'm pro inmate. Even the story in the Los Angeles Times that just came out, it said, this victim's mother wants to make her daughter's killer a better place or a better life. No. I mean, in a roundabout way, yes. Because if we don't have rehabilitation, they're going to go cause more crime.
Yeah.
They're going to hurt
Absolutely.
more people. They're going to
Yes.
make more families like me. I don't want that.
Spot on.
Now, hurting people hurt people. So if I look back to what they went through as a child, yes, I would probably feel some tremendous empathy and go, gosh, I don't know how you handled that, how you survived that. That's no human should have to go through that. No wonder you ended up a criminal and did this and ended up. It makes sense when I look at your backstory. But today I'm dealing with what you did to me. I can't excuse that. I don't care what you went through. So there's different facets to how you look at things.
Sure.
I am for rehabilitation to protect society, but I'm also for rehabilitation because, growing up in church, sometimes they'd be like, we have this dynamic speaker coming this week. He used to be I can't think of the name. What's somebody that kills people for the mob called?
Hitman.
Yeah, I used to be a hitman for so-and-so back in the 70s. And one day I was going through this and God appeared and I got saved and my life was radically changed. And now I'm telling people my story and lots of lives are being changed. I'm like, wow, that's a powerful story. So I'm like, if some of these biggest pieces of crap in prison can go through that change, then they can do that. How many lives can they reach? Like, I'm all about, let's be intentional, let's be effectual, let's light a fire, let's be a light, and let's change lives. How do we do that? We got to get the people going. We got to get people out there. We got to get people to step up and do it. There are some tremendous leaders incarcerated in our prisons because they didn't know they were leaders. They didn't know their purpose. And if they can change through their years of sitting in there, they can be powerful ways to reach people.
To
They can
prevent
have
it
an
can help
impact on juvie kids
and can help
and
prevent
change the
further
trajectory.
tragedies, right? That's what you're talking
Yeah,
about, is you want to see less tragedy in the world, and this
absolutely.
is a means of getting it. That makes sense
Less
to me.
tragedy and more amazingness. Like, I don't just want a nice day. I want a radical, amazing day. Let's really affect change in lives. How do we do that? And so when Kanan was in there and he's calling me, he said, there's a lot of programs in here that I can take. They offer a lot more programs than a lot of the rest of the prisons in California, from my understanding. And he
Jill, hold on. I just
said,
want to tell you, you got about 2 more minutes. I don't want to. I want
okay,
you to finish your thought, but I don't want you to get into something that I'm not going to be able to
okay,
get in.
okay. He said the programs in here are kind of watered down. For somebody that really is looking for answers,
Yeah.
they're kind of surface level. And I said, hold my beer. I've been writing things for 30 years. Let me start writing some books. So with that said, if I can, I would like to mention
Absolutely.
Amazon, Jill Harrison, Understanding Me, People Sorting, forgot, and too much going on. I can't think of the titles. Oh, and learning disabilities just came out. I think a large propensity of people in prison, it's ADHD related. If you're dealing with ADHD in your kids, please get the book Learning Disabilities. There's a big section in there. It talks about driving factors, relationship factors, everything, all things ADHD. So hopefully somebody got something out of my incoherent
I'm
rambling.
sure they're not incoherent. I'm sure somebody has. Now, do you have a website or a Facebook page or
Yes,
anywhere where people can find you?
yes, I'm on Instagram at Adventures in Purpose. Adventures underscore in underscore purpose. Yeah, maybe we
Okay.
can put the link for it or something on the podcast.
I'm sure I can talk to my producer and maybe get some links to your books as well.
Okay, that would be awesome.
So
Thank you so
listen,
much.
thank you so much for being here. You're one tough lady, and I really appreciate the courage you showed in sharing your story. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank
Eh,
you. I appreciate it. I wish I'd been a little more methodical with my story,
No,
but
you were
people
great.
got the gist.
You were great.
All right. Go
All
out
right.
and be a light. Change the world.
Yes. For now, this is the Rational Egoist signing out. I'm Michael Leibowitz. Remember, like, share, comment, subscribe. Till next time.